I think I'm just picking you up through the room, not on that mic. And I'm going to go ahead and go live just so that we got it going.
Yeah, dude.
So keep kind of doing whatever you need to do.
What were you telling me to do on the? Were you telling me to do something on my phone?
Well, when you click that link that I sent you to basically come into the green room,
Yeah.
it's going to give you an option to where you can simultaneously stream it to not only your YouTube channel, but also your Instagram.
Okay.
So then we're essentially doubling exposure to potential people watching or coming across the show.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay. I wasn't sure. Yeah, I'm following you now. I just sent you the dumb pictures of me and my Chief stuff too.
Okay, perfect. I'm straightening up getting my windows and stuff set up here just so I can see.
No worry. Sorry for bugging you. Does that look cool?
Yeah. So I had earlier on, and for those of you that are kind of joining, we're talking to Greg Isenhower. This is just a midweek, kind of a last minute live, and we kind of thought that we would come on. While we have Greg on here, I'm going to ask him a few questions as to his experience of just being on as a guest, being interviewed. And then, not that it's going to be any kind of an announcement, but we're going to be talking about potentially brainstorming ideas of coming up with a new show, and very, very infancy stages. But I thought, something like this where you're kind of brainstorming with somebody and you're trying to come up with some ideas to see, if you're wanting to either create another show or a podcast or do work with somebody on whatever project it is. I think it's kind of cool to see the behind the scenes of how people actually do it.
Yeah, for real. It's been fun talking through all these ideas. I know we've had neither one of us are sleeping and just logging ideas left.
Well, it's like last night, I'm laying in bed and it was probably close to midnight and I could not get to sleep for whatever reason.
You were thinking about me?
And I was thinking about you a little bit. But I was like, Greg and I have kind of thrown out some ideas every, the last week or so since we were doing our episode. And the chemistry that we kind of had and how fun it would be to do a potential show. And just, again, throwing out ideas to see what sticks, whether or not he has time to do it, I have time to do it. And it would be something separate outside of the Tossing Salad podcast. But last night I was like, God, I had a couple ideas and I was like, hey, are you up? Which I feel like I'm, it's when you're sending the late night text to your girl or your guy. Hey, you up?
Side piece.
your little side piece or something. So,
yo, girl, you up?
Before we get into talking about brainstorming on a new show or whatever, I do want to ask you, do you have any time limit right now?
Right now? No, I'm okay right now since it's evening.
Oh yeah, that's right. So if you're watching the show, this is in the evening, not during the workday.
No, just kidding. I'm just taking a lunch break. So yeah, I got time.
I'm curious your experience of being interviewed. Like, have you done a podcast before? Have you been interviewed before?
No, not really. But I think I watch a lot of stuff like that. So I think I have an experience level from just seeing how it's done. If that sounds kind of dumb, but like, you know what I mean? Like, but that is just from watching. That's my experience.
You don't get, see, I don't think you get nervous. Hold on.
No, I like to talk. That's what my wife was laughing at me.
I mute that one. I'm just going to have that run because this is the latest episode of the Tossing Salad podcast kind of running there at the top. And this is kind of what we're talking about because I'm curious because I've been on both sides of it. Usually I'm the host and I'm interviewing somebody. I've been a guest before. And for me, it's a different kind of anxiety, a different kind of stress being interviewed. So I'm kind of curious. So you haven't really been on a podcast or been
Mhm.
interviewed before, but I mean, are
Not
you
really.
nervous or no?
No, I think it be just the setting, you know, like I think I got interviewed one time on a camera for a news channel for a store I was working at, like for like a, you know, we had just opened, so it was one of those like, hey, tell us about your store, and that was awful because like you have to like nail it. There's something about being in your own setting and behind the camera that doesn't bother me. Like I think I told you on our episode, like how I used to think I wanted to be a radio DJ. Just the thought of like saying what I want to myself in a small room versus like being on a stage and doing it. Like I
Right.
get really nervous on a stage setting, right? Like, but I think there's just something about, and I like to talk. Like that's when I was telling Rachel about this. She was laughing. She's like, "Yeah, yeah, you." I love talking. I like stories. I think stories are awesome, and I've always loved telling stories, and that's why I thought it was so fun talking to you. Is there's so many funny things that have happened to me in my life that I feel like just people need to hear. Like sometimes I feel like I'm on the Truman Show, where I'm like, something happened. I'll be like, is
And there's
somebody like
cameras
watching
all
this?
around
Yeah,
you.
like I'm like, is something happening? Like, does somebody see that?
I feel the same way. There'll be situations when I'm out and about in public or I'm dealing with other
Yeah.
people, and I'll look towards the camera sometimes, just kind of like the Jim from The Office type thing, to where I'm like,
Oh
"Are
yeah,
you kidding me? Like I this is happening," and
yeah,
and it I don't think it really came from that, but it goes back to kind
right.
of like what you said, Truman Show or something, where I feel like sometimes I'm like, I've got to be on camera for this.
Yeah. Like, is there some? I'm like, is there some place like just laughing? Like, okay, watch this. We're gonna make this happen to him. Let's see how he reacts. Like, I'm like, am I on a show that I don't know I'm on? It's like,
Just a side note, if you start hearing my audio start to crackle, or if there's any kind of issue, let me know, because I've had issues with this
okay, that
the
sounds good.
last few lives. So if anybody's watching or listening or something, let us know if it's on my end or Greg's end. So you're fine being interviewed, which
Mhm.
I kind of thought it would be kind of easy for somebody who's in a band, who's always in front of people anyways. But then I started thinking, he's in a band, but he's not like front and center.
No,
He's
man,
kind
he's
of
the
tucked
drummer.
behind the
Yeah,
drums.
yeah. So I long to get on the microphone.
Does that are you the are you made more to kind of be behind the scenes as opposed to like being the front man?
No, I'd love to. I would. So my, I would love to be a front man. I think that's just like the ultimate dream. Is like I have visions of like how fun it would be to run and dance across the stage and stuff, and like I love that concept. But yeah, so last few a couple of the bands I've been in, I've done a little like I won't call it backup singing, but a little bit of like because I was in kind of a hard rock band where we did more like screaming and yelling, so it was like kind of fun to like do some of that. But
Right.
it's but when I do get a microphone, I try to be funny and say stuff, and like I can't stop talking. So like some of the bands I've been in, it was some of what we enjoyed was the banter between. There was a three-piece band I was in that was some of the funniest stuff was like what we'd say to each other between the songs. Like it just became like a shtick, like a comedy skit or something. Like just three guys having fun.
Right.
Um, and there's also times when they'll be like, yeah, that's why we don't ever give Greg a mic, or so it's just kind of the funny thing. I am sort of stuck back there, so maybe that's what it is.
Have you been the so I see you as a big personality within a group. Like you're kind of, if there's a group of people in a room, you're going to kind of command the attention, or people just naturally gravitate towards what you're talking about or what you're doing. And are you usually like that with your bands, or are there other bigger personalities and you're able to step back?
I'm kind of I mold myself. So, I mean, first of all, I usually don't wear pants. So people start talking, it's like, but no, I'm just kidding. That's a recurring theme we keep saying.
But the thing is, you're not really kidding, because that has probably happened, and it very well
Yeah, yeah.
potentially could.
So I am a kind of a chameleon. Like I think whether it was friends, work, any situation I'm in, it's come in very handy at work, quite honestly, or very useful in my career of just, bosses or coworkers. Like I can feel out what somebody needs. Like, okay, this person needs to be the one that makes all the jokes, and they're the one, it's like you can kind of like I'm somebody that likes to be funny a lot,
Yeah.
but I can tell when somebody else is like, okay, they don't laugh at my jokes, they laugh at their jokes, so they need, so just trying to fill that. And bands I think are that way. Too. Bands are no different than any other. I think we touched on this a little bit, but yeah, bands are like any other thing, like work or groups of friends or teams, like sport team. There's definitely like everybody has kind of a part, and so sometimes the bands that struggle are the ones where you've got two A personalities, two guys trying to be leading. Because you need somebody with like the ideas. Then you got to have the worker bees that are just like, it's like everybody kind of has a role in a band sometimes, for the ones that work well. And just like anything, they become like family. You spend a lot of time together, especially not minor hobby bands, so it's a little different. We've generally tried to just have fun. I mean, if you're not having fun in a hobby band, there's no point. I mean, like if you don't get along with somebody, or somebody's an asshole or doesn't come to practice, like that's annoying. Like you don't need that when you're just doing this for fun. But I can see how, they become like family. So there's arguments, people don't get along, but sometimes that drives the chemistry too. But yeah, so I'm a very much a harmony type of person, like a person that wants to make sure everybody feels included. So I think my job has always been to like balance that. If there's two people like arguing about something, it's like, I'm kind of like the peacemaker. A lot of times they're like, hey guys, let's do this, like.
And I can see that from the times that I've dealt with you a long time ago. When I say you're a big personality in a room, but you're not that A-type personality that I think of, to where you are commanding that room. You can command a room, but you have those people that overshadow everybody else. Like they have to be the loudest. I mean, with traveling with hockey and stuff like that, and you're around other dads, and this is like at work or with other bands,
Right.
or whatever, like you were talking about, you identify who these type of people are. And it's always those, they're very loud. They just don't give oxygen to everybody else to talk. Right. But I do see you as somebody that recognizes those dynamics with people, and then you're able to either put yourself forward a little bit more if the group needs it, or you kind of come back for the harmony's sake.
Yeah. So it's so when I was working for Best Buy, it was my first experience really getting into that like corporate-y, like personality stuff. So one of the things they used to do, and I don't know if they still, I don't think they do, but they used to have these themes where you took this personality thing and then you were given your top 5 themes, and they vary. There's like 32 of them. And I was surprised to find out, I used to joke, everybody at Best Buy always called myself, I had the hippie themes, like, because like harmony, consistency, positivity were 3 of my top 5. So positivity, like just that was a no-brainer. I mean, I love to be positive. I'm going to try to make everything a positive experience. When I like to have fun at anything I do. Consistency, just treating everybody the same. And then this harmony thing was funny. That was where I first learned that. I was like, wow, I really do that. Like I like, if you and me and somebody else were sitting there and you weren't getting along, it would eat me a lot. Like it's like, no, we got to make Brian happy, or we got to make whoever, it's like it's a very much I read the room. I pay attention to stuff I shouldn't. Like if we're eating dinner even, and I look over and I'm like, oh man, something's going on over there. It just bugs me. Like, why is this person, or if, like you said, if we're in a room full of people and there was a person maybe looking like they're not having fun, it would stress me out. Like I would let it bother me.
I absolutely see that in you. So I'm glad that you recognize that as well.
It can be a curse sometimes too, always worrying about, cause like I've gotten better at this, but I might, like if I pull in a parking spot that looked like it was somebody else's, I'll sit there for the next 15 minutes going, oh man, I feel bad. I hope that guy's not mad at me. And it's like, who cares at the end of the day, really?
As you sit in their parking spot for 15 minutes or
yeah, it's like, I'm so sorry, just little things like that. I mean, like, who cares? Like, at the end of the day, but I care about other people, I guess, I don't know. But that's where the band stuff comes in sometimes too, like in rooms, and like you said, I'm not gonna like say a first day of work setting, or maybe to your point, like say my kid joined a hockey team and I'm like okay, it's our first time going, to meet other parents. I tend to hold back in those scenarios, but once I get to know people, then I want to be like, okay, I want to make the room comfortable. I want to have fun. I love my network of people once I find those comfort zones. Like I've had
Right.
people tell me before, like, oh, you're shy or you're stuck up. And then they get to know you. You're like, man, that you're not at all. It's like, because I won't just walk in a room and be like, hey, I'm Greg. It's my first day of work. I will be a fly on the wall a little bit
But I
until
see
I feel
you. I
comfortable.
can see you walking in a room and like just breaking the silence or the awkward silence
I
or
do
something by
hate
doing
that.
something
Yeah.
kind of silly,
Yeah.
S-
Perfect example is like, I hate when you go to like a work conference or work, some kind of work thing where it's like, I don't know if you've ever done these like trainings where like, all these people that work together have to go do a training, and we're all like, we've all done this job, we've all like worked together, but then somebody would be like, okay, which table wants to go first? And the room just sits there. And I'm like, you guys, we're adults. Can somebody just raise their hand and
Right.
say, we'll go? Like, we don't have to. I hate that. Like, okay, I'm going to pick somebody if no, so I'll always be the one, because I just hate the silence. I hate that. Like,
I think
don't want to
somebody
speak.
like you would be great when you're putting a team together to go to Mars, and you need somebody to kind of be the glue to make sure everybody's doing okay or whatever.
Right.
My friend Amanda is on here.
Hi,
She's
Amanda.
the weirdo. What is she saying? Hold on. I'm realizing if he hasn't seen Instagram, he's going to think I'm a total weirdo, and that's true. But she wants to know, am I going to ask you how often you and Rachel change your bed sheets? And before you answer that,
okay.
I am going to guess that.
I thought you were going to say something else.
Well, I think just out of necessity, like you guys have to change it because of what goes on in that room.
No.
But how often do you guys change your bed sheets? Because that was a hot topic I posted yesterday. Just random.
Yeah, I laughed.
Doing sheets. And I was like, in the morning, I'm just doing my thing, getting some laundry done. And I'm like, I think I discovered fire because I've got 2 sheets, 2 sets. And as the first one's going through the wash, I can go ahead and make the bed as opposed to waiting for things to get through the dryer. How often do you guys change your bed sheets?
Oh, let's see. We don't change them. We do wash them. Like, so one of the benefits of working from home is I'm able to, I can do that in the morning, throw some sheets in and stuff. So I will, I'd say it's probably every other week. I think I'd like to say it's weekly, but I really don't. I doubt it's weekly, but at a minimum, I bet it's every other week. And because we're clean freaks, I mean, Rachel especially, my wife is very much a clean freak. So we're always washing towels, washing sheets, stuff like that.
I mean, if that's the case, I can't imagine it going 2 weeks in. Like I get kind of grossed out if it's been at the tail end of the first week.
Yeah, no, I mean, part of it could be seasonal. I mean, right now it's freezing ass cold, so nobody's sweating in those sheets. I thought you were talking
like
now.
Sex season or something,
Oh yeah,
seasonal.
No.
Like,
dude, we've been married 18 years and 50. Like, yeah,
those sheets are always clean.
Yeah, it's more. Yeah, we'll get into that. Again, when we talk funny stories and topics, that's a classic one. My wife is very. She is known as the one that can talk all sexy when it's 1 PM, but by the time the kids go to bed and it's 10 p.m, she's like, no,
sexy to you, that was or 9 hours ago. To her friends, like, is she kind of the freak? Like, to you?
No, just being like, those, like it's midday and clearly we're not going to go to bed, but she'd be like, tonight, we should, and then when night comes around, no way. I can
see you be like, hey girl, send me a dirty picture.
Hold on,
go to the bathroom.
See what she's saying.
Is she watching? Hopefully she's not watching.
No, she's not. She's too busy.
Okay.
But yeah. And the other thing too, and I'll film it for you, is I'm kind of pretty good at folding a fitted sheet.
Are you really?
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. I have a technique.
I have watched so many TikToks and I'm like, I am going to learn how to do it because I think it's kind of neat to know. And I get so frustrated. I watch it step by step. I'll loop it. Like those people have millions of views and it's because I'm watching it over and over trying to do it. Yeah. I can't do it.
I'll have to check them out. I've never watched them, but I feel like I have a pretty good time. I lay mine on the floor, man. I mean, I lay it all out on the floor and and you get it takes I'm super anal retentive, so like it bugs me if it doesn't come out right.
You think it's hot for other women to hear us talking about trying to fold
I
bed or fitted bed
I
sheets or no?
I would assume so. Yeah, I would assume that there's like a whole OnlyFans
Then
thing
there's
for
like some
that.
alpha males that are out there. If they hear this, they're like, "Oh, these two are a bunch of
Oh,
pussies or something."
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm gonna put
exactly
up
right.
here. Hold on. So I'm gonna put up here. So this was part of our interview last week. It's up there now on YouTube and I mean wherever you guys. If you're listening to podcasts, it's on every single podcast thing out there, every platform. And then if you're into watching the full video, I believe Spotify has it, and we post on YouTube as well as the clips on TikTok, Instagram on the Tossing Salad podcast. Can I have you be kind of that Monday morning quarterback, the Andy Reid coming on to dissect last weekend's game? What are your thoughts on, well, hold on. Amanda's got another question.
Oh
Amanda
yeah,
always comes with questions here. I don't know if you can
let's
see it
go.
on the screen here. I
Probably
feel like
something
we
like,
need a
do I
video of
work
him
out?
folding
I
his
don't.
fitted sheet. Okay.
Yeah, I
So
was.
can you make that happen? Send it
Yeah,
to us and I'll post
yeah,
that.
yeah. You're damn right. I will.
All right. Something
I'm
you and Rachel kind of doing it together and put some music on behind.
throw me a thong on or something. My shoes, my thong shoes.
Actually, what I want you to do, and Amanda will like this too. Do you have a black light?
No, I don't want to see what's going on in my house with the black light.
I
I
would,
don't.
if you're washing your sheets every 2 weeks, I want proof that nothing's going on. Take that black light. The black light is so much fun. When we used to travel for hockey, sometimes I would bring my black light just for
No.
fun, just to look through hotel rooms that we stayed
Oh,
in.
oh God, that's the worst. So
CSI crime scenes.
yeah.
It's awful.
Oh yeah, always semen on is always gets everybody in trouble.
Well, you try to come up with other things
Oh,
because
okay.
you don't want to think it's semen stains everywhere, but it's like on
It's
the
gotta
chair, the couch, the side of the wall, up on the ceiling, and you're like, there's no way. This has to be
Yeah.
like coffee or frosted flakes,
Yeah.
whatever on there.
Who's using Elmer's glue in here?
But
doing
okay,
craft projects?
let's get. So you're gonna get us a video of the
Yeah.
folded sheet thing. So that's good.
Yeah.
Give me the Andy Reid breakdown of our podcast episode. After you've done it, so your experience of doing it live, what was your experience in thinking about it? What do you think? What annoyed you about it or about yourself? And then whether or not you may not have even seen the full video just yet, so you may not have that part of it. But I need some kind of a breakdown from somebody that has been on the show.
I look like I hate how I look. That's for one. My stupid white beard. So I hate that part, but I can fix that. But no, I think I didn't know what to do with my hands sometimes. So that's funny. And just getting comfortable, like I think you're in a little bit more comfortable environment. So that's probably something I'll have to work on is like, I like being in the studio, but just trying to make sure I'm like, sitting still and stuff like that. I like to move. But maybe I need to do something like Pat McAfee where he's always like standing up, and I think it's kind of cool and different. But yes, I mean, staying on topic will be hard for me too. Just like we talked about, I think we started a couple stories we didn't finish, things like that. But otherwise, no, I thought it was a blast. Actually, it felt just like me and you talking.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad because I think after the podcast, at some point, we had talked about a couple of your previous bands, but really not the one that you're in now.
Right. Which is,
and I'm like, okay, that's going to cause issues.
No, that'll be, we'll have time for that. That's a fun band. We're a cover band, but yeah, we got like a fun gig coming up in a couple months that we can talk about and stuff too. So it's not a public gig. So that'll be kind of like, I probably won't promote it or anything too much just for that reason, but it's just fun to play with those guys. I can give you the story sometime about that band.
Well, don't you guys want to publicize like everything you do? Isn't that the point of having the band or no?
Yeah, it is. It's it's just weird, but for like a show like that, like nobody can it's a private event somewhat. So it's a retirement party for a guy at a company, and the guy in the band that plays guitar, John, who got me into the band, he owns a big retail fixture company, and they're the company that hired me when we moved back from Charlotte. So when we were talking last time about how meeting people and how things happen in your life, and just it's another one of those like really cool like things that, to meet him and the way we met. And so the president of their company, who's been there like 20 something years, is retiring, and he wants the band to play for the retirement party.
That's cool. I
we've
get
played,
it.
we've played a few Christmas parties for the company Christmas parties, and we've done other stuff for the family and stuff. So it's really cool. Like his family does a lot of like events, and so we've played for that. So this one will be private in the sense of wanting to promote it. We'll be playing out. We're trying to get out playing in some bigger bars in the cities in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So it'd be fun to talk about.
And the name of the band is
Glitter Trip. Glitter Trip.
Glitter Trip. So so this is something you guys are actively.
That's my one active band. Yeah, that's the band so Defy the Echo still exists in the sense that Jay and I use that name to write music together.
Right.
Like I sent you that wheelie board video thing.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah.
So that was something we wrote together sidebar, and then Jay's a big wheelie board guy, and he filmed all that footage with a cam on his board.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then used our song, and like but yeah, Glitter Trip's my one kind of active band that we practice a couple times a month, maybe weekly here and there.
With the purpose of like landing gigs, right?
Yeah, it's like not your typical play every weekend kind of band. I think we're all kind of past that, but I think our goal is to probably play quarterly. Like if we could go out to a bar, play it for a couple hours to a packed bar once a quarter, I think we'd be happy with that. It's just to get out. The thing about playing out is it's when we do it, because we do it so infrequently that there's four of us, kind of five in the band. We have a different network of friends, but the bass player and the guitar player are like high school buddies, and they're both like 53, 4, 5 years old. So they have a huge network of people. So like when we do play, we draw like a big crowd, and it's fun. And again, it's similar to like the 6-month Alive thing I was thinking about, is because you're not asking people to come out it's like Greg's band plays every Saturday,
Right.
And none of us want to do that. I mean, we're not trying to make money. It's not you can make good money as a cover band. But you got to also play like, 2-3 hours. We're just now to the point where we feel like we've probably got 26 songs in the bag. So, I mean, that's enough to do a good, a lot of your big cover bands play 3 hours, probably 3 sets with a big break between 2 of the sets. And then you got lights, you got the whole thing, and we could do all that. We just don't have it. We're just kind of like working our way that way.
Who's the Glenn Johns of the group that's kind of the boss, or the Paul also of the group? That
it's kind of weird. I will say I don't think we kind of don't have like I don't think we've established that really, which is kind of.
Don't you need somebody to do that, or no?
Yeah, kind of. I think we all play like an interesting role. Like, John's kind of like, John Chandler. He's the guitar. I mean, it's kind of like he's the connection to the band. So he's the connection to the singer who's younger, like I was telling you about. It's his personal trainer. So she's a personal. Yeah, so she's great on stage because she does tons of she teaches classes. So when she gets on stage, man, she is so like. And we did some videos during quarantine. We played a couple shows from the basement and streamed it.
Yeah, and
it sounded great. So people watched it. We did a live stream on Facebook twice, just to see if people would be interested. Yeah,
I saw the Christmas one.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, so that we did that for Chandler's Christmas party. So like the people at work streamed that. Like they all were able to watch it like at work, and that was kind of why we did it. So that was right during quarantine. But yeah. So John, and then Rick's his like I said, kind of like his best buddy. I mean, they've been high school friends. He plays bass. Rick's a quieter guy, has a lot of ideas. And then JB's this young, Jenna's her name, but we call her JB. She's this 26-7 just full of energy. She's funny. She's like the powerhouse. I mean, and she's kind of, she's kind of a leader too in that sense, but she sings. So I think she sits back sometimes when it comes to like the learning of the music, because you got three guys playing music, and then she sings, and then one of her sisters sings. So they both sing together sometimes, which is awesome, which is why it's so cool. We do our cool thing is we do country, pop, rock, kind of everything, and it is a blast. And that's kind of the blueprint. It's like, I want to play songs that everybody can like, so that if you imagine being in a bar with your wife or husband and you're like, oh man, I don't like country music, but
Right.
we play 2 or 3 country songs, then we play AC/DC, and the guy's like, oh wait, I love AC/DC. You know what I mean? Like
A little for everybody.
That's the stick, is like, we do Lizzo songs, we do AC/DC, we do Carrie Underwood, we're doing Taylor Swift songs. We have a lot of pop songs, which is really fun. It gets me out of my comfort zone sometimes.
Yeah.
So I've learned how to play like Brick House, and I'm like, man, what a cool drum song that I never even like, but we're doing Miley Cyrus, we're doing Rich by Maren Morris. We do a couple of our own songs that we've now thrown in, which is really cool because they fit right in with what we're doing. I Love Rock and Roll's a new one, man. I Feel Like Woman. Like, it's just been fun to like Heartbreaker from Pat Benatar. That's kind of a good rocking song.
Yeah, I think that's cool that you guys are doing a little bit of each kind of genre, because you mentioned you're at a bar or you're at wherever you're playing, and if all you're doing is hard rock or something, and your boyfriend or girlfriend, they're like, yeah, I don't dig this. But if you start kind of a little sampling, a little buffet table of songs, I think that's cool.
Yeah, it's been good. It's a good mix. It's funny. It's something I've always wanted to do. I've longed to play in a cover band with a girl singer. I love the element of a girl singer, especially when she crushes like the rock songs. Like, it's so cool to hear her, sing a Taylor Swift song, but when she plays like an AC/DC song and belts out some of those, it's so cool. Like, there's just something different about it. It feels awesome. So it's given us a chance to play a lot of different kinds of music, which is fun. That's what makes it fun. We try to play, it's a battle, like picking out set lists and stuff, everybody's got ideas for songs they want to do. So we kind of have a joke, because she always wants, we always tease her, like every time we have to do a Taylor Swift song, we're like, okay, you have to learn a rock song then. Like, right. So, but we found some
friendly jibing back and forth a little bit, because you guys aren't going to be like, I'm not doing Taylor.
No, it's just finding the right stuff. I mean, and we're only, we're a 3-piece band. So, I mean, we've got 1 guitar, 1 bass, 1 drums. And a lot of these pop songs we're doing, man, like, I mean, there's some, even the country songs, like we do Rich by Maren Morris. We do, I have a set list I can see, Man, I Feel Like Woman. That's an example. There's probably 14 guitar tracks on that recording. So when you think of like a band doing it, sometimes our guitar player is challenged to figure out which direction he wants to go. He's got to like pick.
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of this recorded music is big bands, especially like Taylor. That's what we found. We started doing Taylor songs, man. Like the studio people she works with are so good. So trying to like, figure out what you're going to, and there's, samples, there's keyboards. So there's a lot of stuff we don't have. So we have to try to find stuff that fits. And and the ones we do sound great. I mean, we do a Lipa song. We do Levitating. We've done like, it's fun to take like a drum machine type song like Lizzo, because we do Juice, and to turn that into like me playing drums to it. It's really fun, actually.
I mean, that's how ignorant I feel that you just mentioned something that I never considered, because for a person that just goes to places to hear bands, for somebody like me, I'm like, okay, that sounds nothing like the song. Well, you just explained kind of a lot of the reasons why. There's only so many instruments you guys can do, and you're not in a studio with 10 different guitar tracks.
Yeah, most songs, most recorded songs that you hear out there, I mean, even rock bands, I mean, even the sample of, I think I sent you that kind of rock track the other day that we were talking about for our intro, maybe. Mm-hmm. Even that, my buddy, he's got dual guitar, like guitars that are duplicated on there. There's a lot of people do that when they sing. They do 2 tracks. Like Paul used to do it all the time. The Beatles were notoriously did that. They would record 2 vocal tracks, like the same track, just because it sounds bigger. Like it's not just one voice; it's 2 voices singing the same thing. And then you've got harmonies and backups and stuff as well. But guitars are the same way. I mean, there's a lot of songs they'll put 3, 4, 5 guitar tracks down that you just barely hear and that kind of fill the sound out. And that doesn't account for like, you know, keyboards and other things that might be in there. So yeah, so when we're listening to songs that we want to play, it's like, wow, we got to figure out, you know, there's a lot going on in some of them.
Right. Well, so we're in the kind of the second half of the live here. Not that we had a set time limit, but we talked a little bit about Greg's experience of being on the podcast this past week and kind of breaking down what he kind of thought of himself, giving himself not necessarily a grade, but you know, you look back on it. Can you, what are we doing? What are we doing with a potential show? Can you summarize? Like all I know is like something kind of sparked by us getting together to do that podcast episode. And there's just this synergy of energy that I think that I feel that there's something there that can get hammered out into something not only fun, but I don't know. Maybe it's similar to you putting bands together or something, but what are we doing? Like this is kind of a planning session, pre-planning session. What are we doing?
Is this like, kind of feels like when you start to date somebody and they want to label it like this feels, I'm feeling some pressure. Like
that's a great way to put it.
I think it should be called Two Old Naked Men and Amanda. That's what we should.
Amanda, like that.
No, I like what we talked about, man.
And Amanda did say that she likes the variety of the songs. She wants to go hear you guys play. She's just going to have to travel all the way to Minneapolis or Wisconsin.
But it's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful this time of year. You'll love it. The air is dry. Bitter. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm hoping someday we can figure out how to live stream while we play. I mean, we have the tools to do that. It'd be really fun to try. So maybe I'll try to do that when we do our show. We'll have to get technical one of these days, Brian, but there's like this cool little device thing. My buddy, one of my friends in Kansas City who plays out every week music, he does a lot of like solo stuff. Yeah. He has this little device to show me, and it sounds amazing. And that's what we used. It picks up the sound, just beautiful sound for just being in a room. But we should be able to like live stream the show. That was the point of what I wanted to say, is like, maybe if I could figure out how, when we do that private gig, maybe we can live stream it somehow.
See, that's the crazy part is you guys are each already focused on being a band. You almost need somebody like me to be just kind of hanging out, being kind of like, I'll take care of all the streaming and the
for sure,
all that kind of stuff. So you guys can just concentrate on entertaining everybody. I don't see how you're going to be able to do your band stuff, you being the drummer and everything. And then you're like, oh, before a gig or before our next thing, I've got to get a whole setup for a live stream, because that's a whole other job in and of itself.
Yeah, it worked pretty well. I mean, it's a little clunky, but I mean, it really does kind of work pretty slick. But so yeah, you got me thinking. We talked a little bit yesterday about some stuff, or we've thrown around like the newspaper thing, and I still think there's that could kick off a show of like what Brian and I talked about. What we talked about was the idea of how you used to read a newspaper. You've got the sections, and so those topics, current topics to, arts and entertainment, sports, kind of thing. But when you started mentioning guests, it really got me going. And I don't know if you've seen our sticker board today, but I've littered it with thoughts. There's a lot of people that I know in my network that do similar things to what we do, whether it's not all music, but I feel like there's a lot of people that are out there just doing stuff, and they're unknown, kind of like we talk about. They're out there doing stuff, and some of them are more known than others. I mean, they have followings and whatnot. I mean, a couple of the people I'm thinking of, but anyway, I started just posting all these people that I connect with that play music. Some of them are up here through the 6 months to live. I mean, two of them they're going out playing their own shows, so they'd have something to promote, is what I was thinking. So to your point, it would be cool to talk to them, to get their stories like mine of like, hey, this is why I play music, or their inspirations, and we can all talk about music, and we could find ways to talk about anything, whatever's in the news that week, or if I know they're sports fans or something. I mean, several of them went to Mizzou. So there's a Mizzou connection to a couple of them. Some are from Kansas City, some are from up here. But I just thought it'd be cool to, like, if we had a show and we kind of had our thing going on, but every once in a while could bring some of these people in, it just kind of expose, ask the fun questions, get to know them a little bit, like you did with me. It's just almost like you did with me. Just let them give their kind of their path of how they got into what they're doing. Again, most of it's music, but I got a buddy of mine that redoes and sells cars all the time. And I'm like, that guy seems like somebody it'd be cool just to hear how he's got into what he does. He owns his own company. I mean, he went from mowing grasses on his own to having this huge company. Now he buys and sells cars. He was just on that Garrett Jackson thing. You ever seen that? Like,
No.
The auction things where they roll a car on a stage, and like his car went and did that. It's a TV show. And I was just like, just people like that I'm friends with that just exist out there. And he loves music. So it'd be cool to pick his brain on how he got into cars and stuff. But like one of my friends I mentioned back from Kansas City, a schoolmate of mine, he performs, his job is to play music. He performs every week, whether it's with his band sometimes or by himself. And I've just kept in touch with him over the years. We're always in contact. And I just think he's a cool story. I mean, he's got things to promote. He's got his own website and stuff. But some of them are just people like me that don't, maybe they're unknown, but it'd just be cool to hear their stories of why they play music and how they manage being a parent and work but playing a band, you know?
Yeah. So there's a number of different things that we can do together. And I think we're both kind of intrigued on not only keeping it kind of wide because our interests are kind of wide, but I told you the problem that I foresee, and it's because I've been doing the Tossing Salad podcast for over a year now. And when I see other podcasts, is the sense that when you're not, and not necessarily niching down into something, but when you have a hard time in describing what your show's about,
right,
it's really difficult to get out there. Now, that doesn't mean you can't do that and just have fun and do it to have fun.
right.
But the Tossing Salad podcast, for me, people say, well, what's the Tossing Salad podcast about? And right now, it's whatever Brian finds interesting for that week.
Yeah.
So one week, Tossing Salad podcast was about Peter Jackson's documentary and the Beatles. That's
right.
what Tossing Salad podcast was about. And the next week, it's interviewing somebody like you and your band and what you got going on. You can't. How do you make that to where other people want to come and listen? Because most people really don't care about you or care about my story, your story, or whatever, because they don't know who you are. You're not Peter Jackson. You know, you're not Pat McAfee. I know you mentioned Pat McAfee. Mm-hmm. You're not these famous comedians that are able to do kind of these variety shows, which I love how the comedians do it, to where they all have their own shows and then they team up and do shows together and then they cross promote each other and they go on each other's shows. I like that idea, but nobody knows who Brian or Greg is.
Right.
So that's what I'm struggling with. When you and I are coming up with all of these ideas that would be fun to do, I almost wonder, okay, how can we make it to where we have kind of a defined theme of sorts with the show, but still give us that flexibility? And that's why when I was last night at midnight, I'm like, well, what if we keep the show with all the things that you and I are interested in, whether it's back to the newspaper idea that you had where you had a topical thing, then you had arts and sports and all that stuff. And depending on what you and I want to talk about, we post out there, hey, looking for somebody that's in a band. Like our theme or our kink are going to be people that are just in these bands across the world, really. And my example to you was right now what's topical, let's just say in sports, and you're a big Kansas City fan, you're from Kansas City. I'm like, well, let's talk about the Chiefs and the playoff and the whole Kelsey, Taylor Swift. I mean, that's got to be a great show. Why don't we put out there, is there anybody that's in a band that would like to come on and talk to us about that? And
Yeah.
so we talk about the topical stuff, we have fun, but then the back half of the show is, okay, well, what do you have going on? So
Right.
we're kind of kicking the rocks over, trying to find all these people that need to be exposed. They're looking to get their name out there, but we're having fun, but they're not necessarily coming on to sell something.
Right. I think it'd be fun to, like, there could be a niche of, like, you know, like you've got this podcast going on, you've got this show, you've got I've got this band thing, and I think there's other people out there that are into stuff so I feel like it's like, and most of it can be music. I mean, a lot of the people I wrote down, almost all of them are related to music somehow, but like I think there's ways of like helping uncover people or talking to people that are doing things that are doing what we're doing, just trying to get going. I mean, I have friends that do little shows here and there, and whether they're in the housing industry or whatever, but like I think it could be fun to just bring people on that are trying to do what we're doing, which is just have fun. And most of it can be maybe like you said, bands. We could also like connect people. Some of these people are people I've connected with that could maybe connect you to somebody else, and just trying to expand the network and talk about. And to your point, then the structure of the show could be like, okay, yeah, now you know how it is. We're always going to ask you these 3 funny questions or whatever they might be, or like, talk about sports, your family, whatever it is, like a parenting fail, or, whatever things you and I seem to like. If we can come up with things we typically talk about, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I absolutely know what you're saying. And I think that you understand what
Right.
I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
Because there has to be some kind of package, because I made the mistake. Well, it's not necessarily a mistake with tossing salad, but tossing salad is deliberately very vague. However people want to read into the name or whatever.
Right.
But it's my test kitchen to do a whole bunch of different things that I find interesting, that at some point I may branch off or shoot off and do another show with other people on other things. But it gives me the opportunity to interview people. It gives me the opportunity to mess around with technology and how to stream and live stream and multi-stream into Instagram and YouTube. So for me, clearly defining Tossing Salad Podcast isn't that big of a deal. And I understand, because I can't do that, I'm not going to get a lot of people to follow or understand what we got going on.
Right.
But that's okay, because every time that I post clips, let's say on Instagram or TikTok, I'm constantly casting out into a lake, into brand new fish, brand new lakes, of somebody that's just interested in that particular topic.
Yeah.
And I think if you and I are going to do a show, the great thing is, you could probably put anything in a bowl of topics and you and I would have fun with it, and our personalities and our sense of humor. Really, Amanda and I have talked about this too. Like, I've tried to get Amanda to do just to kind of think about it, and there was like a couple things I think months ago I tried to pitch, but it's hard, because even if you find somebody that you could do a show with, finding somebody that has the time to do it, that wants to do it as much as you, and kind of understands what needs to be done to market, to get the stuff out there. All of that has to kind of come in. So this is why when Greg and I have been kind of talking for the last week or so about, well, could we do this? And I'm like, the only thing I put out there was, however we're talking on FaceTime, which we did, I think, yesterday afternoon or something. I was like, we need to do this on a live.
Yeah. But yeah, I think.
Hey, Emma, how are you doing? So I saw your thing. I was just letting Greg kind of finish. He gets a little wordy out there.
Sorry, Emma.
Emma's in Columbia.
What's up, Columbia, Missouri?
So
573.
Chiefs fan. She used to be. We have similar stories of migrating out of California and then moving to eventually Missouri. But I interviewed Emma, I think it was last fall or something. It's been a while. It was a great interview.
So I'm leaning towards this idea of, like, as I'm looking at my sticky notes, a lot of these people are people like myself that have a full-time job, have a family and play music for fun, as music's really important in their lives, but they're also like unknown people in some cases. I feel like there's something about like, how you've opened up like, wow, Greg does all these things. Maybe a lot of people don't know. I feel like there's a lot of people out there. So maybe is imagine like, imagine if you're this big show, it's like the opposite of like the Jimmy Fallons and Jimmy Kimmels of the world, right? Like, it's like we're unknown and we're bringing people on that are unknown versus
Right.
like, I'm this big guy that can get anybody, I'm going to take the biggest superstar and bring them on my show. It's almost like the opposite of that. Like showing the people that are doing, and if it starts so it can always, if it just needs to be music at first, but just finding these people that do this stuff for fun, but they're talented. There's talents out there, I guess, is what I'm thinking, that people don't know exist. Like, and it's maybe
if
just
that's
finding out
the
how they
hook of
got
the
into
show,
it.
right? But how are we going to get somebody like Amanda or Emma to want to tune in on a weekly basis or
Right.
whenever they do, or even somebody that doesn't necessarily follow us but sees us on Instagram or TikTok or YouTube and want to check us out? Like, how do you describe that? Are we trying to find the world's most unknown person?
I think it's more like, maybe it's more like connecting people to like, hey, I could do this thing. Whether there could be many things. Like, one is like, oh wow, it's not too late to try to do something, like with myself, or finding these fun hobbies, or
You're Not
but
Dead
also,
Yet podcast.
yeah, but more like, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to think through it right now, but like, it's more that like, you find a connection with people. Like, at the end of the day, like I said, I'm my career and family and everything is really what comes first, but I just have this passion and love for music. I got a studio in my house. A lot of people don't know that. They come in and like, oh my gosh, you have a you know what I mean? Like, there's
They think
people
it's like
that do
50
that.
Shades of Grey, and
Yeah,
you
yeah,
and Rachel have like
yeah,
chains and places to
yeah.
a couple
I mean,
Sibians in the back.
it's weird. Like, these handcuffs do come in handy for sound. It's
Right.
what they're. I mean, but no. I mean, I just think there's like, I don't know. It's like passions or whatever it is, but but I think people would bond over the fact that like, oh, that's cool. This guy has a wife and kids and a second family in another state. And like, I'm just kidding about that. We can edit that out. And but like, but do this stuff, like play in a band. Like you said, you're like, you made me feel good last week going, oh, Greg, you're really cool. You play in a band. Like, there's people that do this stuff, but yet they live a very normal life. So I feel like there's those connections of people can just, and I threw, like, when we were talking about ideas, like as dumb as it sounds, like you said, like, if we get into little sports talks or whatever, because some of these folks I'm thinking of, went to Mizzou. So yeah, there's a little Mizzou connection, but whether it is like, if you're talking about parenting, or you're talking about like, I don't know if we're changing recipes even,
But stuff like that makes people real and touchable. I totally get that. And
that's
I want
what
to
I'm
be
thinking.
able to do that. I don't want to limit us. And I think you and I both had said that even if we start out in one direction and we kind of get going, there's nothing to say we can't change things up or kind of finesse this or massage it as we get going.
Yeah.
I just know how I work with projects, and I'm very scatterbrained. When I brainstorm or whatever, I'm a big picture guy, but I have problems in packaging. I have problems in organizing. I'm all for like jumping in the pool with you and doing something, but I just know from my experience of doing Tossing Salad and the troubles, not troubles, but just some of the limitations of having a very wide subject show that I can't easily define now. I think you and I need to have some kind of a package, something that grounds us to where we always know, okay, this is kind of what the show's about.
Right.
But also allowing us to have the flexibility of having, like, I love that idea that you had with the newspaper, because the newspaper, you've got all the different sections of it.
Yeah.
The headlines, and you've got the stock area, and then you've got, because we can talk business about how to do podcasts or how to run a band, how to make money. Then you got the sports, the art section, And then the Dear Abby section, like I even threw out to you, we could pitch and field, questions from other parents or dads or something to where they're having
Yeah.
problems with something. We can kind of give our takes on it. And maybe that gives us that flexibility. I'm struggling with the packaging of this.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hear where you're coming. Yeah, you got me going today with the guest thing. But I do think I think there's one of the things I was thinking is like the way you and I, when we did my interview slash show, I mean, there's other people just like me that do things, and I feel like that could be, like it's just a little getting to me, or like we talked about, everything's kind of connected. Like how did this person connect to this person, and maybe we just keep, if you every show, if somebody's like, oh, this person was really important in my life, and they, connected me to something, it's like, oh, well, maybe we can meet that person. And it could be the same. It doesn't have to be just music, but it could be, you could do the same thing with podcasts. Like if you're like, oh, this person that's like maybe a couple steps ahead of me doing podcasts, like maybe we try to grab those people, just people that are down here trying stuff, not necessarily, like you said, not going for like, not going to try to bring in like big superstars, but just people that are just having fun, and like,
but
it's like
everybody,
we're all sharing ideas.
The biggest podcasts out there are bringing in the superstars. We're not bringing in Cat Williams and doing 25 million downloads. We're bringing in Greg Isenhower, who friends or people that follow me are like, well, who the fuck is that?
Yeah.
But they see you, or they give you a chance. They're like, well, I think he's kind of funny.
Right. That was my thought, is like, it's like, because you got to start
Amanda
somewhere.
wants the pantless idea, no matter what we decide on.
Yeah, like a topless car wash.
Amanda, I thought about that for part of Tossing Salad. Like there was a couple people that I know locally that I think I could have gotten them to come in to do a podcast naked. Like we would both sit there naked and do it. And then I was like, I can't. That's still up on the table for Tossing Salad. Maybe not for Greg and I, but we could do the bottomless one.
Yeah, I do think there's something to just starting. If we need to stay focused for a little bit, is just start with just connecting people through music or something, like this hobby.
I like the music thing because we go back to what Greg, did you mention this in the podcast, or was this just you and I kind of talking? Is that your boss or Rachel? Like, what are you doing on YouTube?
She did. I got a text like 2 hours ago, Rachel. It said, "Oh my God, I'm dying. I just looked through our photo album. Forgot the video of me with the wig."
Oh, really?
Because we have a shared album, and she goes, "My boss and I are dying," and I'm like, "Oh Lord, I forgot that was in there." So
you got to watch out what's in those shared albums or things that pop up on your Apple TV or whatever.
Yeah, she got a kick out of that.
I think there's something with the music thing, in a sense that music, like finding people within just the music industry, which could be kind of defined very broadly.
Right.
But that is our thing, to where we go find all these people across the world, that because there's a new band formed every day.
Yeah.
There's a synergy between us and somebody like that coming from a band, because they're always wanting exposure. They want somebody that wants to talk to them, as opposed to us like asking friends to kind of do us a favor.
Right.
There's times where I feel like I can always go with like Amanda and say, "Hey Amanda, let's do a live," or "Amanda, let's go do a show." And she'll do it. I know she loves doing it and it's fun, but sometimes I'm like, I can't keep kind of dipping into that, because I don't want her to feel like she's doing me a favor, which I know, Amanda, if you're on here, that's not how it is. But when we're interviewing people from these bands like yourself, you also have that like you're wanting it also.
Yeah.
And so you're gonna do all the extra effort to market, and you're going to do all the extra effort on your end to say, "Hey, I'm going on It's More Than the Music podcast," or something.
Yeah. And a lot of these people too, like I feel like a lot of people in music, I mean, even if you watch interviews with big bands, they didn't necessarily start out to be like, oh, I want to go out and make money and be. I mean, they're literally doing it for the art of it and the fun of it. And some of them get lucky and like, wow, I can't believe, I look back and it's just funny when you see those interviews with bands that have been around for 20 years and have, when they were like, literally, I just wanted to get together with my buddies and make music, it's like, it didn't start as like, and I'd say most people are like that. Most people I know, there's a lot of people out there, like I said, just have fun doing it, and they do it for the music. They're not trying to necessarily make money, or they just want to have fun. It's so fun to play music for people. It is one of the coolest things I've ever done. Like the feeling of like have people singing your songs, or like just singing with you, jamming with you, like while you're playing, is such a cool feeling. Like it's a trip.
And this is why I think this also goes in line with you had talked about, and I totally dropped that point 30 seconds ago. You're wanting to get more involved with like being a music producer and getting into possibly that potential area of music. And there's got to be a bunch of really small bands that maybe don't have the experience that you do. And that's kind of your soft way of kind of getting into that. People start to know you and your name because of the podcast for exposing people and helping them along. And then you start having bands reaching out to you like, hey, I heard you on the podcast. What's the best way to get booked on these gigs or whatever? And then you can kind of help people do that.
Right.
My problem solving, like I'm very not only sciencey, but I'm like, okay, let's just do this, as opposed to when we get together with a group. Like I used to hate working in corporate America or the school projects, to where you're like, okay, well, we all are doing this and you never really get anywhere.
Right.
Like I almost want to say, okay, Greg, I think we have something, but let's do the music. Let's just pull from the music pool.
Right.
And then once we kind of get going and doing it, then if we decide, that's just a little too narrow for what we're doing, who's to say we don't spawn off either another show or something else, but at least that gets us going. But I'm also to the point to where I'm like, let's put this in the crock pot a little bit and keep thinking about it. But I don't want to lose. I was gonna say I don't want to lose the momentum, but if we lose the momentum, we know we probably shouldn't do it.
Right.
Because this shouldn't be like the hot guy, hot girl that you're infatuated with for a few weeks, and then all of a sudden you lose it.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be this needs to be something to where I think you and I need to give us kind of like what Chelsea and I did, to where we said, okay, we're going to do 24 episodes up front. We're going to do 24 live episodes, and then we're going to make a decision, because it forces us back to the table of saying, all right, let's reevaluate if everybody's still having fun. Yeah. Because that's kind of awkward if we don't set a thing to where, okay, we're going to do this for 6 months. We're going to do this for X amount of episodes. And I think back to Chelsea, that would have been awkward if we didn't have that 24th episode deadline. Because then it's like, because I think she had a hard time in coming to me towards the end and saying, I just don't think I can make this work out. But because we had that episode where we were going to make that decision. So that's the other thing I wanted to kind of toss out there to you, and just say, hey, you and I come up with, okay, what do you think? X amount of episodes or 6 months? And again, it goes back to, like you were saying, with 6 months to live, to where it's all done. You make that, you put a band together for 6 months, you practice, you have the big performance, and then you guys are done.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be fun. Because I think, because I think, like you said, it's as long as we're having fun, that'll come through. I think if we're having a good time and we enjoy the conversations, I mean, I enjoy doing this. So, I mean, if we can, but like, that's a good point. Set it up, say, okay, we're going to try this and just see what happens, and go for it. And then, like you said, then you can reevaluate or figure things out along the way.
Yeah, I think the reevaluate deadline is important, because it does really help, especially if we're going in as friends or something, because then I'm like, I'm not really enjoying this, or life gets in the way, and we both know there's shit going on, and but it does get us back to, okay, it looks like the deadline's in 3 weeks. We got to figure out, okay, what are we doing? How are you feeling about it? And if it was just this ending that there was no clear line, you'd be like, oh man, I don't know. Then all of a sudden you start like, I can tell Greg's not really into this anymore. I'm not into it anymore. Amanda likes the It's More Than the Music podcast name. See, Amanda's great for brainstorming.
Yeah, I like that because I do think hearing people's stories, and because what got me when I first saw when you were interviewing your friend about the Beatles thing, man, I just wanted to jump in there and be like, sit with you guys and talk. I think there's enough music interest between people talking about, like we talked about, influences, like, and whether we come up with rotating topics. So some of this I think of like, do you remember what was the dude Will Ferrell used to play? It was the movie guy. It was an SNL skit. He had that behind the actors guild. What was that guy's name with the beard?
I remember the behind the actors, but was that his skit? I thought that was somebody else's skit.
Well, no, that was a real show, and he mocked this guy.
Right. But was it Will Ferrell?
Yeah,
doing that on SNL? Okay.
Yeah, Will would do that.
It's like behind the actor studio.
Yeah, but he would have the same questions at the end of his show. He'd always like interview these big people, and it was dumb. Is if someone were like, "What's your favorite swear word?" I mean, like he'd always ask them, James Lipton.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was just thinking that if we come up with like,
did you come up with that, or somebody posted that? James Lipton.
Yeah, I finally came to my head.
Okay.
Yeah. But if we talked about things about music that we like some of the idea for shows you and I talked about was like, where were you when you heard something, or like when you first heard Nirvana or whatever it was, like something like that, like all these music people to try to dig into them and be like, okay, like the controversial stuff. Okay, so are you pro or anti-Beatles? Because it seems like there's a lot of both sides.
We can make it, it's of interest. It could be of interest to people outside of music.
Right.
Go back to your band doing different genres of stuff just to make sure everybody has a little piece when they're at the party. And it's not just we're talking how to set up an amp or something, which I think would be kind of fun, the technical side of it on some episodes.
Yeah.
But we're getting to know these no-name people that are from these small bands, and we're talking Sopranos and breaking down that final episode now that it's been 20 years since it aired or whatever. And we're talking to the lady who's a drummer for a band in Savannah, Georgia. And then the last part of the show, we kind of like, what do you guys have going on with your band? What kind of stuff do you guys do?
Because I think there's people that, I think people like to talk about their inspiration. I mean, that's what I love about music. And a lot of people, like you were saying how earlier, when we were talking earlier, like how you didn't realize how sometimes people don't realize how music's made. There's not, like we were talking about, I was telling you about the multiple tracks. There's a lot of people that don't realize there's a million ways to write a song. Like it doesn't start the same way every time. Some people start with music, write music, and lyrics are the last thing they do. My buddy Josh, who I'd like to have on the show because he's the founder of 6 Months Alive for one, but he writes the other way. He writes with lyrics first and then puts music together. And I find that really interesting. And I mean, I've seen interviews with like the guy from Coldplay. The reason the song Yellow exists is he needed a word and he looked over and saw the phone book. And I just think it's so cool. A lot of people don't understand that, like, it can mean something deep inside your soul, or it could literally be like, I need a word and yellow happens to be it because I'm looking at a yellow, thing. I just think that's really cool. People that write music, like I'm so intrigued by where they come up with stuff, like whether they log things, like there's everybody does it different. And there's not one right or wrong way to like write music.
I think the dynamic, I mentioned this to you, I think last night in the text at midnight, because our dynamic is coming from different backgrounds and we're talking music kind of, but at least you're coming from the idea that you've been on stage, you've done it, you've created it, but I'm coming from the other side of it to where I'm out in the audience.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm the one that kind of asked the question that the audience would ask, or have you guys, okay, wait a minute, you guys are geeking out a little too much because nobody understands what you're talking about. What is that really?
Yeah. Where do the panties go?
What do you guys do with the underwear? Are they clean? Are they dirty? Have they been washed in a week? Are they like your bedroom sheets?
Oh, dude, I played in a band one time. I just forgot about this. But I'll have to see a picture. But we played a show. We were called the Guilty Richards, which is a hilarious name because we didn't want to say dicks. But the Guilty Richards, and that was another really fun band. And we we bought like old underwear and old bra, like big ones, like huge bras, and like hung it on a line behind the drum kit, so it looked like a just to be funny. We thought it would be funny to have like some big ass like 44 bra like hanging up there.
It's something that we've got. So yeah. So if you were to ask me like right now after we get off the live here, okay, what'd you guys get done or accomplish? I'd be like, I don't know. I'm hoping that this is something you're better at than I am, in a sense that you're like, okay, well, no, we did get something out of this. Yeah. I do think we got something out of it.
I think we have a focus. Like I feel like, I feel like I've got people that be fun to talk to just to start with, you know, and that we could at least see how this goes with like, hey, let's talk music with people. Let's talk, you know, their interests, how they do what they do, you know.
I think there's something there. And then that's easier to tell people and market and package the show up, because we're basically discovering more of these people within music, these bands. But the difference here is going back to it's more than the music kind of name, like which that. I just kind of threw that out there because that's just describing what we're doing. It makes them a little more interesting. Somebody else will tune in that, let's say we do something about let's just say the Chiefs for the week. Well, we're pulling in people that are into the Chiefs,
right?
Also that want to hear that, but then maybe they get turned on to somebody that's part of the band, this band or something they can go follow.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
Amanda's got another idea here. I like the idea of the same one question for every interview. That's like a signature question.
Right. I agree with that too. Kind of come up with a similar things for people. Like, if we have almost like recurring segments, you know, like we talked about, if you had a recurring segment, I think, I like the idea of the fan, like this is just dumb. I'm coming with something, but like the drummer and the fan, like somehow to tie, like you said, like there's the guy that's been in a band, and then there's these like it's the
I'm sleeping with the drummer podcast or something, or you know, just something just kind of that stands out. And that's why on our little note thing that we've set up, which is something that Chelsea turned me on to, which I got to find out. Chelsea had me on her account. I got to make sure that I'm not. That she's not paying for it or something. I think it's under her business or something. I need to check. But that's why I have a little thing on there for us, like any kind of podcast name or show names that you and I have come across that are just unique and different. Yeah. Put that there, because that might inspire us to come up with a name that's different, that just stands out. Because
and I think we have that set. Yeah, I'll try to, because those are kind of funny. I like that. Or something like, you know, play on VH1's Behind the Music, or like
Behind the Music. That's a great one. Put that on there just so that keeps us thinking.
Just something like, if it was more like something more like what's in, you know, besides the music instead of behind the music, you know, like
so now I think because we're able to kind of tie it down to just being kind of music in the music pool.
Yeah.
I think now we can start coming out with names that we can play on a little bit more and be a little more creative, as opposed to before, to where we're like, well, we're not even sure what we're all over the board.
Do we still? Oh, there's show names on here. Oh, I like it. Okay, hold on. So we said, okay. What was the one she said?
It's More Than the Music podcast name.
Oh yeah.
And a play on that, a play on different words. Like I like being a little cheeky with the names of stuff. And
okay, yeah, we're good. I got these in here.
Like I think something like New Heights podcast, which I love the podcast with the Kelsey brothers, but I think that's a little kind of boring for you and I. So I think we need something that kind of stands out, a little funnier or whatever.
Right.
But maybe there's going to be one that we come up with, or somebody comes up with, that we're going to be like, that's it. That is it. And I hope that's what I'm hoping for, that when we see that name or come up with one, that we're like, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. I like it. Yeah, there's stuff in there. I
Emma
like
saying her favorite VH1 show was Pop-Up Video. The little bubbles were great. I loved it too, because it was all little bits of just interesting,
yeah.
random.
Oh, I love music nuggets.
Random nuggets that popped up on a video. You're not just watching the video. It made those videos so much. It was a fun experience to sit there.
Besides the music is the one I'm stuck to right now. That's just really cool sounding. Like instead of behind the music, like it's a play on like besides, like it's like it's music, but then we'll also hopefully talk about other shit. Like
Emma's throwing in no dumb questions. So I any of this stuff, I think now that we're if we're both kind of on board with, we're thinking the music pool, and it's not necessarily a music podcast. It kind of is, but it's kind of discovering new people and talking about random things that we predetermine that you and I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And those people, they'll self-curate themselves. Yeah. Because we want to talk about baking for the week, because you have a funny story about you're trying to make pizza for the kids or something. Yeah. And we're like, dude, we got to talk about that on Friday. We send a thing out. Hey, this week's show topic is going to be about baking. If you're in a band, you want to come on, talk about baking and a little bit about what you guys have going on, let us know. And I think as we get going, that's easier for us to package what we're doing.
Yeah, I agree. I like it, bud.
What about keeping it broad enough to include all types of artists? And we definitely can, but then I think we get into the point, Amanda, that how do we package that? The music stuff, I think, gives us a little bit of an identity, but it's also that could be broadly defined as well.
Yeah, I think there could be ways to layer that in. Like I said, I think there's, like, again, my buddy that restores cars also loves music and goes to tons of concerts. So I know him and I have bonded over music.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool to like,
you can have him
music,
on,
but talk about like how you got into cars. Do you listen to music when you're working on your, like stuff like that? Like, I think we could layer in some of that. Like, I've got a friend who is wanting to be a drag performer, and I'm like, she started an Instagram page and everything, and I'm really curious, like somebody even like that, like I'm really curious, like what, and it's music based. I mean, they dance, they see, it's like, so I'm curious.
And how fun would, I mean, okay, you're gonna have to put that as one of the first 10 shows that we end up doing, because that's gonna be a blast.
Yeah.
But like anything, like even let's say your buddy who restores cars, he's not necessarily in music, but he like enjoys concerts. Well, maybe we're talking about our favorite concerts that we've ever been to. He can come on. It still kind of falls under that music category because we're talking concerts, but then we also kind of get to know him.
Tell me how you get in a car, stuff like that. Like, because he's like I said, we've been to concerts together. We've bonded over some bands. He's got, so we talk a lot of music. And I think it'd be cool. Like, that's an example of somebody that doesn't play it per se, but has an interesting life that would be cool to say, because he's got his own Instagram page for the cars he does. I mean, they're gorgeous. It's just cool. It's like, this is a cool dude. Like, he's interesting,
Right. I think we're not only just onto something, but I think we're seeing it kind of develop.
Yeah.
I think this live was important for us to kind of get out there. I think we've gotten a lot of help also from people, from Emma and Amanda popping in. Amanda's really good with brainstorming ideas, because she and I do that quite a bit also. And
we're going to send her a mouse pad once we get our show's name.
Once we get our merch and stuff going. I had approached her. I know she was probably one. I've only done it 2 or 3 times to where I felt like, okay, I've got something with this person that I know we can make a good show.
Yeah.
And I think it's just kind of a timing thing. And I mean, she's got a big kind of a following within gardening. Yeah. So to kind of doing something kind of separate, it's tough.
Yeah. I think it sounds fun, man.
Well, good. I'll look forward to getting on later tonight and seeing all the things you've updated on the note stuff. I think so. Let's try. Okay, so are we narrowing it down to kind of this music pool that we're pulling from?
Yeah, I think we should start there. I think that because again, I think that's a place to go because I do think I do see this potentially being like so. For example, like Jenna, the singer of Glitter Trip, is on my list. Like
Mhm.
she might be a great person to bring in because we can introduce Glitter Trip, you know, like we just started talking about. But I really don't know how she got into music. Like she's got this great voice, and I don't think she's been doing it very long. Her
Yeah,
family is into music, so I think she would be. It'd be. I'd learn about her. We could talk about glitter. I mean, just something like that, and like you branch out from there. Like maybe there's somebody. Maybe her dad's interesting enough because he's this guy that played music. I just feel like maybe there'd be people we can connect with each time that
domino
gets you to
effect.
yeah, like
Yeah,
okay, this person inspired me, okay, let's talk to that. And again, you're connecting the dots because I love how music connects. I told you that before. It's like all music is connected one way or another, like whether somebody like who got you into it or even the Paul McCartneys of the world like have heard a song and like I wrote a song because I heard this song. So
right.
like I think there's just that connection
And
might naturally
we,
happen.
yeah, we still do. I mean, we're still doing Beatles episodes multiple
Yeah,
times if we wanted to, and then you have people come on that they're not
yeah,
necessarily in a band, but we're talking
yeah,
about a
yeah,
band, so that's still within the music genre. And
yeah,
then I think this also being able to, on a regular basis, we're bringing in somebody that we're interviewing. It also addresses another concern that I have of us having just another bro podcast.
yeah, yeah.
So I
I
think
think
being
this could
able to bring in different viewpoints of, bringing some females on here to give us a little different kind of a
yeah,
feel and a look, and then bringing people that are younger than us, and like
yeah,
your lead singer fills two of those, somebody younger
yeah,
and a female.
yeah,
And then it's not just, two guys that look like us with, oh, here we go, another podcast that looks like 98% of the other ones that are
yeah,
just, two
yeah.
guys that are angry about Star Wars or something.
I think I think it's music, the music connection with like a touch into arts or hobbies. Like people just finding that like I said, finding those interesting people. Um, there, I think we can do that. I think we can manage. Like I know a lot of people when I think of just my life that are really into music in a cool way, but maybe don't play it or just exposing that. I think
Well, I think we're focused in the right direction now,
cool.
or we have a direction.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I like it.
So
And it'll just be as long as it's fun for us to talk about it. Like I said, I think that's half the thing. I think if we can make people comfortable and enjoy spending time with us, and we're having fun doing it, the rest will
putting
kind of
fun
like
stuff out
yeah,
there, having
yeah,
a good time. You and I both have said that before, and I think we both know from going even back to Mizzou days and everything. You and I are making each other laugh. I
yeah,
think we make other people laugh. Sometimes people don't get us, which is fine.
yeah,
And there's times to where our humor is different. Like you have a different humor than I do sometimes, but we're always trying to just I have a good time.
yeah,
We're not out there trying to put negativity too much in it. All that's kind of behind the scenes. We'll talk negative
yeah.
about people behind the scenes,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah. That person was terrible. Because I think when I think about too, like I think about like my social media network, like I'm connected to a lot of people that I don't really interact with and maybe I
but
don't need to, but this would be an example of like I don't want to hang out with this person, but I'd love to hear him talk for 30 minutes, kind of thing. You know
maybe
what I
that
mean?
should be like people we don't want to hang out with, but we'll talk to you like one time.
But
And
do you
so
know what I'm
here's
saying?
no, yeah, I
Yeah,
get it. Yeah.
yeah,
My thing on that is if we're pulling too much at the beginning, and I understand, I mean, we're just starting, we have to get people on, so that's going to be people kind of we know.
yeah,
But we fall into that trap a little bit of those are people kind of doing us a favor as
right.
opposed to us putting out there, hey, if you like us and you want to do this, come to us.
Yeah,
So that's an
yeah,
attitude that we can have as the show gets going.
yeah.
But just to go through a list of people that, okay, these are all just buddies and friends of ours, I don't think works.
No, I think it's a starting place because I
Yeah.
do think what I'm getting at is I do think there's there's like so some of my buddies that are on this short list of people I want to talk to, they're part of like this songwriting thing in Minneapolis, just for example. So there's like 20, 30 of these guys that do these like songwriter challenges. So it's a group. I follow them on Facebook just because it's interesting, and my buddies are in it. But they have this thing where they throw out like a topic, and everybody has to write a song. The goal is for them to just learn how to be better songwriters. So like they'll literally say like, okay, privilege is the word, and then they'll go write a song about privilege. They'll put it on the internet. It's supposed to be quick and easy. It's not perfect, but of that group of people, there's people in there that are actually like, one of the guys, I went and watched him play one time, and he was younger, and I thought he was really cool. He really intrigued me. I was like, dude, this guy could be a rock singer. Like, but he has his own music, and I see him promoting it. So what I'm thinking is like, that would be a good example of somebody that I don't know, but I'd love to just meet him and say, hey man, like I saw you got a show coming up, you know, hey, so I feel like we could get to that place, like through meeting other people. We might meet those people that are like, hey, come on our show, like, and promote, you know, if you got a show, you know. And I think it's cool if we help the people that like need the help versus like, you know what I mean? Like there's people out there that already have well-established stuff, but I think it'd be fun to just like, you know, we'll get there, but we'll have to start small.
You can make that part of our, what's the company, not motto, but like the unwritten thing for you and I is like, okay, and we're going out for people that actually need it.
Yeah.
You know, we're not, our goal is to try to get Coldplay on here.
Right. Yeah. Because they're, what I'm thinking is there are people that are doing what you and I are doing. Like there's people, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a show, whether it's a band, and they're not trying to go out and be like, I quit my job, I bought a van, this is what I'm doing. But they're just like, hey, yeah, I'm playing a show next Saturday. It'd be cool if 3 extra people came. Like, you know what I mean? Right. Like that kind of, that's what I'm thinking. Like
I'm on. Yeah, I understand. I got that. Yep.
And I've got like, I have a couple friends. I mean, this just, it sticks in my mind. Not that it has to be this, but like, I've got a couple friends, for example, that are just got into real estate, and they're constantly posting really cool stuff on social media, just trying to get people intrigued by what they're doing. And like, just things like that. People that are trying to like do stuff on their own a little bit and use these kind of mediums, I think would be just kind of fun to,
you have any ugly friends? Am I your ugliest friend, or are they all really good looking friends?
No, you are. I've just so I didn't get put on like a FBI watch list, I wanted to have at least somebody like you.
The people that need it. We want the people that aren't popular and are just as ugly as I am. I'm kind of curious. I'm like, Greg keeps talking about these friends that he has. I'm like, and all I think about as he's talking, and Greg's got the great ideas, and he's very serious when he was talking there. And all I'm thinking of is, I bet you they're all like 9s and 10s.
No, not
like every guy and girl that he knows that's in his little clique.
Yeah,
they're all just hotties.
I can already see like Rachel being like, "Why did you interview her? She doesn't do anything. She's just hot." Like,
she listens to
she
listens to music.
Yep, she said she's
got a Spotify account.
Yeah, she turns the radio on in her car. So we just thought she'd be great. Like,
I'll be like, "Hey, Greg pitched the idea. I thought it sounded good."
Hey man, that's fine. Like you said, we want to be young females as our guests. Is that what you said? You were like, just
we need to like you and I. There was what was the one group that you had? The one band that you're kind of in. You said that for the writing.
Oh,
the
Defy 3 guys. The Echo. Yeah,
Defy the Echo.
Yeah, that looked scary, right?
You sent me that picture, and I was like, "Oh my god, is this like the FBI watch list for? Or are we storming a Capitol or something?" Yeah. So I think we need to be careful at least how I look.
That's Naked Jay. Naked Jay is in that band.
I need to, I think it'll be fun having all, I mean, just, I love the fact that you mention us also focusing in on people that really need it. And our goal is not to get like big names. Like, what are we going to, like, I love those actors or whatever that are like, I'm never going to work in a Steven Spielberg movie. Because they disagree with something with him or whatever, and it's like, well, there's no way you'd ever get a Steven Spielberg movie.
Yeah, or like Chris Farley interviewing Paul McCartney. Do you remember?
Right.
Do you remember when you played with John Lennon? That was awesome.
I forgot about that skit. That was so good.
But no, that's what I mean. I think for now, I mean, we need to button up our chops, and so we'll learn talking to people that would be willing to like get on and just talk music and shoot the shit, and like you said, have similar personalities, and hopefully from that, like as we get better, maybe we, you know, meet some people and just be fun to just talk, like people that just want to like talk about what they do, you know, just like you said, it's like it's a good time. You shoot the shit for a few minutes. You don't have to do anything but sit there and talk. And it's like you said, not everybody will be comfortable with it, but I think a lot of my friends that I can think of, like people across my network, it would be a good place to start. And you too. No. I mean, you and Amy, like I know you guys know a ton of people.
MRI, thanks for hanging out with us. We are at the end. This was a long spur of the moment live. I think we got a lot of stuff accomplished. I enjoyed talking to Greg about the podcast, what he thought of it. At some point, if you make it through the entire episode video or listen to yourself, I'd be curious how you break things down, like, you know, what you liked or hated about what you did. Like when I edit these shows, I've listened to the podcast probably 6 times, and I get so annoyed with just hearing myself. You get tired of hearing the same thing over, and I'm sure like as a band you guys play the same songs over and you're like, oh, okay, you get tired of it. So not that I get tired of our podcast, but I
know what you mean though.
I was laughing because it just makes me laugh at some of the stuff that we were talking about, but you know, there's just certain tics that I pick up on just myself that I'm like, oh, if I was a guest, I would hope that they would either not notice, the host would not notice, or the audience would not notice, or they would edit it out. I like.
See, I got to learn from you. You're very comfortable on the camera, and I can tell the way you speak. I can tell you just speak like it's a show, and I think that's one thing I picked up on myself last week. I got to learn is like sometimes I mumble because I want to throw something funny in, but like I think I got to learn to like, you know, say it like you're on a show, you know, like so. You do a good job.
That was your first time. If that was your first time on just like being interviewed, kind of in that situation, there's going to be all kinds of things that at least you're open to figuring out what makes you comfortable or what you can do to do better. Every episode, I'm like, I've got to stop with certain tics or certain phrases, learning how to slow down. Like when I get going with talking, I go fast. And I sound like a mumble mouth, and then if I just deliberately slow down, it sounds so much better on the edit.
Right. So, yeah, I'm with you.
All right. Greg, thanks for hanging out today. I hope your work and your wife don't see it.
Yeah.
But I mean, why would it matter? Because it's like 9:30 at night. So whatever you do at night is your business.
Yeah, I don't have to go to Chippendales tonight or anything. So.
And then I am going to end the live. You guys, thanks for hanging out, popping in and out, giving us a bunch of ideas. If you haven't yet, go check out Greg's episode 34, the Tossing Salad podcast. We talked about like drumming. We talked all about hobby bands in the Minneapolis area and stuff. We talked about family and being a dad and the inappropriate dad jokes with all the teenagers and all that good stuff. So go check it out. The full videos on YouTube, Spotify, and then the clips will be coming out over the next week or so. All right, guys, we will see ya. Greg, I appreciate it. Hold on just a second.
Talk soon.